薄いのアホ。
プリズムパワーメイクアップカードレディー。
Welcome to Shojo and Tell, where we discuss shoujo manga and tell who's hot and who's not, talk about themes, and just generally geek out. Today, October 27th, 2018, we'll be shoujo and telling about volumes 8 through 13 of House of the Sun by Taamo. I'm your host, Ashley McDonald, and I'm joined once again by Kelly Quinn Chiu.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, you're back.
I know, you didn't scare me away the first time. I came back for the second half.
Nice. You were like, I gotta know who gets it together in the end.
I know, I was like, is Daiki gonna get hit by that car? Now
exactly.
We'll finally find out.
Spoilers. Daiki did not get hit by a car because that was always a ridiculous thing. But, you know, this is about the second half of a series. So if you have not read House of the Sun, I do not recommend listening to this podcast because we're going to spoil everything.
No, but I do recommend reading House of the Sun.
Yeah, exactly. I do recommend go and buy House of the Sun from Kodansha and just download that onto your phone and read it and be like, I am so amused during my subway ride reading this. Oh my god, Daiki's the best. Like, have those feelings.
Yeah, so when we left our heroes, everyone was...
There's only one dude named Hiro, Kelly. Come on.
Well, when we left Hiro and friends, everyone was like at romantic loose ends, and Mao was like pining over Hiro, and Sugimoto was like, how do I confess my feelings? And Daiki was like getting himself all sad, and Chi-chan was crying. So then
it was distraught. Everybody was distraught.
Everyone was upset and no one was happy.
But these volumes, it was just like, all right, it's confession time. Like, just all over the place, you know?
Yes, a million confessions.
And they sorted that stuff out, you know?
Yeah, everything pretty much gets sorted by the end of the manga, which is nice because it's only a 13-volume manga.
Yeah.
And it kind of definitely has like its little arc and like ends gracefully without like extending itself forever and ever.
And also, I was, you know, a little afraid. I was like, oh no, you know, it has a whole sad premise. I was like, is there going to be some, like, oh no, and one of them does get hit by a car just to, like, be really melodramatic. Right? I was like,
just to really, like, stab that knife in. Like, remember how our parents died? It's like,
yeah, exactly.
Now Hina died and brought us all together.
I know. I'm like, I don't need that. Please don't do that. And it didn't. I'm like, thank you.
No, it didn't. It resolved a lot of things. So yeah, do you want to start by talking about our favorite moments? Because I know that all of yours actually have to do with Daiki.
They definitely do. Hey, one of yours has to do with Daiki too, and I
that's
agree
true,
with
that's
it.
True.
But, you know, I really loved when, like, Daiki's actually confessing his feelings, and then Mal's just kind of like, Daiki's been acting weird lately. Wait, Daiki's been acting weird, like, a lot. Wait, is Daiki just, like, weird? Is that just how Daiki is?
Daiki's been acting weird his whole life.
Yeah, like, his whole life? Has he always been like this? And I just, like, didn't notice. Like, what's happening?
Mao's so dumb.
And I was just like, Mao, I literally can't laugh this much. Like, please don't do this to me. Like, I can't take it.
Poor Mao. Mao is like totally like oblivious protagonist. She's like, wait,
oblivious.
Like me? What?
He likes me? He said it was a joke before. I totally never did that to Hiro. Like, I don't see through anything.
I believed him 100%.
100. Oh, goodness. And then there's also a side chapter. You know, Daiki has the best side chapters, like, spoiler alert, where it's Mao and Daiki are playing a video game. And Hiro walks in and is like, why are you guys being more intense about this than usual? And Mao's like, well, the loser has to do whatever the winner says. And then Hiro's like, let me play too. And then Mao and Hiro are both thinking like, ooh, like if I win, I want like Hiro to do pervy
what
things
can I
to me.
make them do?
Yeah, like they're being real pervy about it. They're like, what about this or this? And you're just like, all right. And then Daiki's like, it would be nice if we could go on a date. And then it's just like, Daiki is the purest. I'm like, Daiki is the purest.
Daiki's such a pure boy. Also, there's so many pure boys in this series because there's also that like extra chapter about Chi and Oda
And Oda's like, she's not thinking that.
Yeah, we're like, Oda is like the purest boy, and like all of his sisters are like, no, dude, she definitely wants to make out with you. And he's like, no,
he's like,
so
she wants
pure.
to kiss you everywhere.
And he's like, I just want to hold hands. He's like the purest. And Chi-chan's like, make out with me.
Yeah. He's like, she just wants this cute plushie. And they're like, no.
Oh,
what a childish thing.
Boys. But yeah, speaking of Daiki, also I think it's also like an omage. Or is it in I don't know if it's in one of the regular chapters where Daiki's cousin brings him a homemade sweater from his aunt.
So the giving of the sweater is in the regular thing, but then revealing how ridiculous the sweater is, I think, is in the side chapter.
Yeah, where it's like his aunt like hand knits him a sweater, and it's like a Weasley sweater basically. and his cousins are like, he's never gonna wear that. He's never gonna wear that. And then like later in the side chapter, you find out that he like sent a picture of himself wearing it to his aunt, which is like the cutest thing ever.
And she's like, see, it's fine. And I'm like, Daiki's such a good boy.
I know. She's like, I know that boy. I'm like, aw.
Everybody knows Daiki is a weak, pure boy.
he's so nice. And his aunt, I actually she's like not in the manga enough. His aunt who he lives with.
Yeah.
She totally treats him as a son. She's like, I know that boy, I raised him. Like he's gonna wear that sweater.
He's gonna wear that sweater, or he's gonna get a strong talking to.
Also, I don't know. I feel like my favorite parts about this manga are always like the random moments. Like I really like when it's like a totally like aborted romantic moment when like Mao and Hiro are supposed to be like having this big moment, and then they do like the like cop out thing where Hiro like falls asleep in the middle of like making some big pronouncement.
I was like, what?
I know. It's like, every time. But then Mao like leaves a note for Daiki like on his face in pen.
Yeah, it was
so
good.
Like, the dog pooped.
Yes. Mao is really good about, report cards of how Croquet is doing.
Mao is like a really responsible pet owner. She like goes and walks the dog. I don't know. She's so good with that dog.
I'm just saying, we know that her future job is wag walker. That was my conclusion from this manga. Like, I know definitively that that's her future.
And I also feel like, of course, like one of my favorite moments has to be like the big confession scene, but I think we'll like get to that.
Where, Mal's stepmom told her all the things to do on a romantic date. Like, I think she was like, do one of these things. And then Mal's like, let's do all of them.
Let's do all of them.
Right now.
Ice skating and Ferris wheel and restaurant and all
lights.
the things.
Like Christmas lights. We got it. With checklist.
Yeah, it's like check. Okay, are we dating now?
Did we date? We dated.
You're super bad at dating. You're not good.
You don't have to rush through it, Bao. I know, like, you've got a lot of pent-up feelings, but...
I know. We'll get there. But yeah, so let's rewind to the end of volume 7 and talk about Daiki.
Yes, let's always talk about Daiki. I mean, that's how this whole podcast should be. But yes, so the beginning 2 volumes, like volumes 8 and 9, are pretty like Daiki focused because he's doing a lot. He's like, all right, I'm gonna tell Mao how I feel, but he's also trying to like help Chi with Oda. And,
I know. I love Daiki as this matchmaker who's like making all these little chances for Chi-chan. I'm like, why are you so nice? You don't have to do this.
Because he's the best boy. Darn it.
It's because he sympathizes with Chi-chan because he's like, her love is doomed and my love is doomed. But then it turns out her love is like not doomed at all.
And he's like, does that mean my love's not doomed? No, it was still doomed. It was doomed.
Still super doomed.
I just love, Daiki's really good at making like little, I think there's a point at the very end where, I guess, for the aborted discussion with Hiro and Mao, in which Mao leaves a note on Hiro's face, in the end, Daiki had like set up that moment for them. He was like, Mao accidentally came home or whatever. So then I had her walk the dog and told her to like chill here and like as long as she wants. but he knew that Hiro would come home for once because Hiro is like overworked and dying.
You know, poor Hiro.
He's a very much a Japanese salaryman. He needs a break. But then Hiro like goes to the restaurant instead because they're like, we're having a work celebration at Daiki's place of work, and Daiki's like, no, why are
You're so dumb, Hiro.
Yeah. He's like, why do you destroy all my simple kindnesses? Like, why do you do this? So Daiki has to be like, no, I asked your sparkly boss man over here if you could leave. And he said, yeah, so get out, go home.
Oh my god, just like a quick side note about Hiro's boss. Like, we like never know anything about this man.
He's very good looking and he sparkles. He literally sparkles.
He just walks into panels and like sparkles at everyone, and then that's it. Like, we know nothing about him at all.
Yeah, and just, like, they contextually are like, he's sparkling. Like, it's not like a, you know, it's like a real life thing. He just sparkles.
He just comes in and he's like sparkles and like plans trips to Sendai and then like swans off. I don't know. He's like such a weird random side character.
He's pretty weird. At first I thought he liked Sugimoto, but then like as soon as he's like, oh, Sugimoto's like likes Hiro, he like starts leaning into that real hard. I'm like, all right, I don't know.
I know. He's like, let me set you guys up. I'm like, no, don't.
No, don't. Stop. You don't know anything, sparkly boss man.
But Daiki, I feel like the way that Daiki handles his crush on Mao is like really interesting, because the more you get to know about Daiki, the more it is clear that he has liked Mao since they were kids and has never really and has always kind of like seen her gravitate like more towards Hiro for like support and stuff, and him more as a brother.
Yeah, it's the unfortunate age difference and the fact that Hiro is named Hiro. That's real.
I know. Yeah, it's rough. But when he decides to like pursue his feelings anyway, which I guess I'm like, go Daiki. Like, you can do it. And then like Chi-chan urges him to confess. And like, is that like the right move? Like, do you think she's right that he like should confess his feelings to Mao, or should he have just like left them unknown forever?
I don't know. I think on some level, it's kind of like he has to say it and be rejected to actually move on, because otherwise he's always going to, because especially in this period where Mao and Hiro are not actually a couple, right? Like,
right.
Like, these two have been torturing me this whole time. So like, they're not
decades.
actually a thing. So like, I guess it's kind of like if Hiro and Mao had gotten together before, like, no, he shouldn't have confessed, right? Because then it's like, well, it's too late, bro. Like,
yeah,
they're together. But I think, and that's like a closure of like, well, they're, you know, she has a relationship, so that's over. But in the state where it's like, well, he really just needs to like move on. So sure, confess so that she knows, because she's dense and it's just like, is Daiki a weirdo? I don't know.
And then she gets he gets closure on his feelings, I guess.
Yeah. And he's like, we all know where we stand now, so we can all move on from here.
I know. I liked actually, like, there's a moment where Chihiro is talking to Mao about, because I think Mao's like, Daiki confessed to me. Oh yeah, and Chi-chan's like, what? I'm so surprised. Like, she's like not surprised at all.
And Mao's like, how long did you know?
Yeah, she's like, I knew this whole time. But then Mao's like, have I been like terrible to Daiki? And Chihiro's like, yeah,
yeah,
you've been
did.
bad. You've been kind of awful. And I was like, that's so honest and like totally true. Because it's like, yeah, Mao's like oblivious, but like, yeah, she's been kind of she's like going to Daiki for like romantic life advice about Hiro. And I'm like, yeah, you have been kind of terrible to him.
Yeah. At least Chihiro was like, I get it. You like Hiro, so it made sense. But also, you've been terrible to Daiki. Like,
yeah.
Get it
like,
together.
You've just been shattering his heart day by day without realizing it. Now, you dummy.
He is such a nice boy.
He is a nice boy. Oh, poor Daiki. Yeah, so Daiki's like Mr. Matchmaker for Chi-chan and Oda, which I think is cute. But then he also is like Sugimoto's therapist after she gets rejected.
Oh, yeah. She just keeps coming and is like drunk and is like, oh my god, your brother doesn't like me. what do I do? And he's just like, oh my god.
I know, poor Daiki is like the president of like the Lonely Hearts Club. It's like Chi-chan like goes to him to like cry when she's all sad, and like Sugimoto comes to him and like she's all sad, and he's like, what about me? I'm sad.
Yeah.
Like,
I have no one. I'm just sad.
yeah, Sugimoto comes and cries to him at the restaurant, and he's like really honest with her. Like, she's like, you can't understand. Like, you've never been rejected. And he's like, dude, I was rejected like yesterday.
Yeah. He's like, actually, I've been rejected by the girl that you are like mad at. So
yeah, cool. Poor Daiki. And then he's still like nice to her, even though she's like a total pain.
I know. Well, see, with these things that he was doing for Chi and Sugimoto, I was like, oh no, is it gonna try to like pair him up with one of them? Like,
oh yeah, I know.
I was simultaneously like, I want Daiki to have someone, but also like, but not them. No.
No. I know there's definitely a moment in this manga where I'm like, Daiki and Chi-chan?
Yeah.
Like, right? Because especially because Oda is kind of like, he's like going off with other girls, and she's just like getting sad, and Daiki like is totally sympathizing with her and like sees all her sadness, and I'm like, are they a thing? No, but then like Oda like gets it together.
Well, because it kind of helps that Oda also was like, wait, are Daiki and Chi becoming a thing? I don't want that.
Oh, I know. It's like
jealous.
Classic jealousy spurs his feelings on and like makes him realize that he actually likes her.
And I'm like, no, you brat, I hate you.
Aw, poor Oda. I actually think that Oda and Chi-chan's confession scene is like really cute, because they both are just like crying at each other in like the middle of the mall.
They're like, we've done a bad thing, and now it's weird and awkward.
Like, she's like, I'm sorry, I'm confessing. And then he's like, it's so awkward that you're confessing to me when I've been such a jerk to you.
Like, please stop.
I was like, oh, you guys are pretty cute. But I feel like their relationship is like kind of like a fun like little side relationship, because they, like, everyone else in the manga has so much like baggage with each other. And then there's like Chi-chan and Oda who are just like, boop-a-doo, we're just like high schoolers dating. Like, we just like each other. Yeah, we just want to make out. We're just like gonna have a Christmas date together, tra-la-la. And then like everyone else is like, oh, but like, will this destroy my family? Like,
yeah, will
my
this
love
destroy
interest?
my entire world? Like, I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, which also brings me to a question about Daiki, where after he gets rejected by Mao, he thinks like kind of seriously for a little while about leaving the house.
Yeah, I was like, Daiki, did you really just come for Mao? Like, I don't believe you, you tsundere boy. You playing me.
Like, I was like, no, you can't leave. Like, I feel like that would have been like devastating if Daiki like left after he got rejected by Mao. And I was like, no, you were supposed to be family. Can't.
Yeah, that would have been bad. That would have made me think that he's not a good boy, but he is the best boy. So
I know.
He stayed.
Daiki is just like a pure angel. And yeah, he stays. And not only does he stay, he also like supports them, which I'm like, you're so selfless, Daiki. But also I feel like part of him knew that it was doomed from the start, because like I said, he's liked her since childhood, and she's been like a dum-dum about it like since they were 6.
Well, that's why Daiki's always been a weirdo, right? Like, that's why Mal's like, oh, he's always been like this. Oh my goodness. No, but I think peak Daiki is like, I don't remember the context for like why this happens, but again, he tries to give Mao and Hiro a moment alone. So he like comes home from work and he's like, oh, you guys were talking, haha, it's fine, I'm gonna leave again, I'm gonna go to karaoke with my friends.
Oh yeah. When he goes to fake karaoke.
And then they're like, you don't karaoke, Daiki? And he's like, no, I totally do, I'm going now, bye. And then like Mao and Hiro play along with that for a while. They're like, all right, let's have our conversation. So then they talk, and then they're like, all right, let's go find Daiki now that we've worked this out, because clearly he is not at karaoke.
Like, and then they find him like down the street in like a convenience store or something.
Yeah, reading like comics or a magazine or something.
And he's like, well, it just like ended early. Like I totally went. And they're like, okay, Daiki.
Yeah. So the pureness of Daiki comes from him like being like mildly grouchy, but everybody knows that he's really a nice boy. Like everybody has a read on him. And so then like, you know, when he does something nice, they're like, Daiki, we see you. We see what you've done. Like,
we see you going to fake karaoke with your fake friends.
Yeah. Daiki, don't lie. You don't have friends that aren't Mao's friends.
It's so true. Oh, Daiki's a good boy.
He's a
but
hug.
he ends up just being like Hiro's brother and Mao's friend and not a romantic interest. Sorry, Daiki. But let's talk about the other Nakamura sibling, because Hina finally arrives in this half of the manga and she has like a big role to play. So she is like, in the first 7 volumes, Hina is like an unseen but like looming presence, right? Because like
gloomy presence somewhere.
Yeah.
Out there.
Well, because Hiro like really wants her to come back, and she's the one who's like not really in communication with them and is like hard to read. And she's also the one that like Mao most closely identifies with, because Mao is like taking over her space kind of in the house, right? When like all the things that Mao has, she kind of has because Hina didn't come home. And then Mao also can't really like imagine why Hina wouldn't want to like come back and like have all the things that Mao wants. So she's kind of like this big, like, what's Hina gonna do? And then we finally see Hina. Well, we see her for the first time at the fireworks festival. But then Hiro sees her on his trip to Sendai. They spend so much time in Sendai in this manga. I'm like, Taamo, are you a Date Masamune fan?
I think so. I think that's what we've learned.
But so Hiro goes to see her. And then we finally see her in her like home environment with her foster family, who's also like a member of their extended family. But Hina's relationship with her foster family, it seems like totally different than Daiki's relationship with his foster family.
Yeah, Hina seems to be like, oh, they're nice enough, but what if they die? So I never get close to them or something.
Yeah.
Like, all right. Dark Hina.
And then also she has her cousin, right, who's like around the same age as her, and it doesn't seem like they like super get along.
Yeah, they seem, the cousin's all like cheery and just like a typical high school girl, and Hina apparently makes weird puns and like, is gloomy.
Hina's like gloomy and like closed off, and her cousin is kind of like, she's like taking up space in my house.
Yeah.
Like,
I try to be nice
stuff
to her and she doesn't respond. I don't understand.
Yeah, and the aunt and uncle that she stays with seem to also feel like Hina is kind of like withdrawn. It's like totally different from Daiki's aunt, right? He's like knitting him like sweaters
with his name on it that he will wear.
Yeah. So like it seems like she's not happy there. Like unlike Daiki, because like Daiki leaves a happy home to like come back to Hiro. And Hina seems to like not be in a super good place where she is now, but also like not want to leave.
Yeah, because she has dark moments where she's like, I just can't. If we all 3 of us get together again, somebody's gonna die. And I'm like,
I know.
Jesus,
like, no.
Hina.
No, Hina, chill. Calm down. But then that trip is also when Hiro he realizes like what we talked about before, which is kind of like how he has like been conflating like Mao and Hina in his mind, where like he wanted his sister to come back, like Mao came to live with him instead, and he's just been like boop-a-doo, now I'm like a family, and kind of seeing them as like substitutes for one another when they're really not. And he kind of like has this like meta moment of realization where he's like, oh my god, I'm totally like subbing Mao in for my little sister.
Yeah, and I think it depresses him because he's like, oh, I lost track of the goal. Like, I haven't been pushing hard enough to get Hina. And like, clearly I see that she's not happy here, but like, what do I do about it sort of deal. Oh, poor Hiro.
I know. Well, I also feel like that's like a kind of a turning point for his feelings for Mao, because I feel like Hiro's feelings for Mao were like in Mao's head for like a lot of the manga, And we don't really know, like, at what point Hiro kind of, like, realizes that his feelings for Mao are, like, more than family.
Yeah, at what point he wants to kiss her.
Right. But I feel like that is, like, one of the turning points is when he realizes, like, Hina is Hina and, like, Mao is Mao. And, like, I can't keep treating Mao like she's my little sister because my little sister won't come home.
Yeah, and he's like, okay, well, I guess I can just kiss her now. Like, it's all good.
Yeah. And he's like, this really clarifies things for me. Like, it's not really like kissing my little sister, it turns out.
Oh, good.
And then she's her own person, also several years older.
Yeah, than my little sister. So that's great. Like, good. This is working out for me. He's like, also, I've made a step, you know, because I feel like Hina before wasn't really talking to him. Definitely wouldn't see him. So he's like, oh, now I've seen her face to face, like baby steps, you know?
Yeah. Well, then it's also after he has kind of like that moment of realization that he like flat out rejects Sugimoto, right? Because Sugimoto confesses her feelings finally after like so much hemming and hawing. Okay. And she does it under an umbrella in the rain, like while they're sharing an umbrella, which I was like, damn, Taamo, you know how to set a mood.
You know what's up.
Yeah, so they're like sharing an umbrella and it's raining and she's like, I like you. And then she like runs away in the rain. And he like thinks about it for a second and then rejects her like pretty firmly. Like not unkindly, but
yeah, because he's Hiro and he's a nice boy too.
Yeah, he's a nice boy, but like pretty firmly. He's like, yeah, so that's like not gonna happen. And you know, Sugimoto's like, is it because of Kukai? And I'm like, yes,
yes,
yes, it is. 100%. I kind of like how Taamo like draws like Mao when a Hiro and Sugimoto are in Sendai together, like Mao's imaginings of them are like, oh, they're like running around with like sparkles and like bubbles. And she's like, I bet they're together right now. And then Sugimoto's imagining of Mao and Hiro are like the same. like they're probably having such a good time. They're like all being all like snuggly in her imagination, and like in real life, they're like totally not like that.
That's how we should all remember that this is how it all goes in our minds. We all think it's better for the other person, and it's just not. It's just not happening.
You know, it's like they're probably snuggling together on Christmas. Like, really, they're like, Mao's not even there.
Mao drew on his forehead and then left.
Oh. But then Hina has like a second big moment when they go on like the big family trip, which is like the big turning point, really, of the manga. Is like the double family date to Sendai. So Hiro and Daiki and Mao, and then Mao's dad, who I realize like never has a name. He's just like,
he is just Mr. whatever.
He's just Mr. Motomiya. Yeah, he's just like Motomiya-san. It's just, you know, we never like know if he has another name.
He doesn't.
And then stepmom, who grew on me in this half, because before I was like, she still kind of sucks.
This time she's like a little more forceful with everybody.
Yeah, she starts to like actually like step up, which I appreciated. And then the little sister, Yui, right, is her name.
Yeah.
So they go all on this trip together to Sendai again.
They gotta go get Hina.
And it's like, I kind of like love how awkward it is. How like Hiro and Daiki and Mao are like all together, and then like the Motomiyas are like all together, and then they're just like, what do we do?
Well, there's that scene where they're eating like lunch or something, and Hina sits with the Motomiyas, and I'm like, what is happening?
Yeah, and Hina goes and sits with them, and I was like, Hina, why are you so bad? But then Hina has that like weird moment with like Mao's dad, where they totally like how do they relate to each other? Like, what is the connection between them?
I was very confused. I was like, why has this resonated with Hina? Like, I get from Mao's dad's perspective, you know, he looks at Hina and sees that she's sad over her parents, and I guess, you know, he was friends with her parents. So he's like, you are looking at this very wrong, child. Like, let me tell you that, like, your parents don't want you to be thinking of these things because you were, like, 4 when they died, and I was older than that. And, like, had discussions with them as adults. So, like, don't be like this.
Yeah, that conversation is, like, really tough because Mao's dad is, like, it's like really like one of the first times he like talks about the Nakamura parents, and you realize like, yeah, of course they like must have known each other pretty well, because like their daughter like basically lived at the Nakamura house, you know, and they were like neighbors.
Yeah.
But that's like the first time you hear him really like talk about them. And he's like, oh yeah, like I knew them. And then he's like, and I was always like so jealous of your family.
Yeah, he's like goes real hard. He's just like, let me tell you all my deep feelings right here.
Yeah. He like opens up to Hina more than like anyone else in the manga. And he's like, I was super jealous of your parents and their family. And like Mao always wanted to be with you guys. And like she never wanted to be with me.
Yeah.
And I was like,
and
woof.
like, why are you being sad? You have the best family. Go back to them. Like,
yeah. And then Hina is just like, we find out, right, that like the reason that Hina doesn't want to come home is she's just like consumed by this like childhood guilt of thinking that she's the one who killed her parents.
Yeah, because they went to buy her something, and
they went to buy her a toy, and then they like got in a car crash, and she's like, if I hadn't been so selfish. I mean, it's like the same. Hiro feels the same. If I hadn't made them move, then they wouldn't have died. But for Hina, it's like stops her from being happy. And I think that is where they connect, is that both of them are like actively preventing themselves from happiness.
Yeah.
Like Hina's like enormous guilt, even though it like is unfounded, about her parents. And like, she's like, I can't go back to the house. Like, I'm a doom cloud. I'll bring disaster to them. And just making herself miserable. And Mao's dad being like...
He's like, I know something about being a doom cloud, let me tell you.
Yeah, he's like, this is my life. I just walk around making people miserable. But him just like be like also like just getting in the way of his happiness, like refusing to like meet his daughter halfway, and like refusing to like be with his family in a way that's like open. And I feel like that is where they like connect in like a super strange way.
Yeah. It was just really weird for that to be like, this is the climax of where, like, Hina decides to come home. I'm like, oh, Mao's dad did something good?
I know, what? How could this be? But I feel like Mao's dad is, like, everyone else has been approaching Hina with, like, they genuinely want her to be with them, right? So, like, Hiro is, like, you know, please come back. We love you. And Hina, like, can't respond to that because she feels so like weird and guilty about being happy. So I feel like Mao's dad being like the most miserable one is like the only one who can like relate to her on a level that she actually can like accept.
That's true. I'm very much there are definitely times where like, you know, I say something negative to like my friends or whatever, and what I'm looking for is them to be like, yeah, you're right, that is awful. But they're just like, no, it's fine, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I want you to acknowledge my reality in a way that, like, speaks to me. But then also you can spin it into a positive thing. And that's what Mao's dad did. So I was like, all right.
Yeah, he's kind of like, Hiro and Daiki are like, we erase, like, any badness you feel. Like, we don't even get it. And Mao's dad is like, I get you.
Yeah, he's like, I am a terrible person. Like, I probably can't even say this because I'm just bad. Like, I'm still actively being bad. So, like, sorry, but, like...
Yeah, he's like, I see your misery and, like, your guilt. But you need to, like, and I relate to you and I, like, acknowledge it. And I think that's, like, the turning point for Hina. Someone actually being like, I am miserable, too. And, like, I see you.
He's like, do you want to be like me? I'm old and miserable.
Basically, he's like, I am repressed and sad. And I like can't tell anyone my feelings. Do you want to be like me? Do you want to close yourself off from every relationship? I dare you.
I dare you. And she's like, nah, I'm good.
She's like, yeah, no, you are really sad. I don't want to be like that. But then it's a turning point for Mao's dad too, because that is also not the conversation with Hina, I don't think, but like the trip as a whole is kind of where he decides to stop being such a jerk. Yeah,
like he has some moments with Mao. He's still a jerk in those moments for the most part. Like, I guess the first breaking point that's really prominent is they go to play like an arcade game or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's some shooting game. And Mal's like, yeah, I can do it. And then she like totally misses, and her dad's like, you suck.
I know.
And show you how it's done.
And then he does it he like gets her the prize, which is totally like a first date move. Like, I was like, why is Mal's dad such a tsundere? Like, he's like, let me get that for you.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Yeah, it was terrible. Why is he like that? There's also this moment like earlier than that where Hina is kind of like giving Hiro the cold shoulder. Like he's like, Hina, like come with us, like come walk with us. And Hina's like, just being like standoffish. And Mao's dad like turns around to Hiro and is like, I guess someone hates you too. And I was like, what is wrong with you? Like, okay, buddy. Like, ooh, wow. And maybe that's also why he feels like he can talk to Hina, because he feels like Hina hates Hiro and Mao hates him.
Oh, that's good. I like
but
it.
Yeah, he's like, it looks like your sister hates you just like my kid hates me. And I was like, dude, why you gotta be like this?
He's also like, I hate Hiro too, Hina. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, Hiro's terrible. God, he just wants everyone to like be happy together.
Ugh, he just can't get on his level.
Yeah, so Mao and her dad have that like weird like datey like daddy-daughter date where they like do things together.
Her little sister also is like, you guys are like boyfriend and girlfriend and you should like get together soon or something. Like,
I know, she's like, I hope you can be together soon. And I was like, oh, precious child.
I was like, no.
But yeah, and he finally starts to like, I don't know, he finally starts to open up to Mao a little bit. But like his version of opening up is just like not being like a total dick.
Yeah, not like ignoring her, just like actually acknowledging her presence and sometimes like doing a thing with her. And it's like, oh, nice.
Yeah. Oh, you have made a step forward. I guess like seeing Hina be able to like that she actually like doesn't hate Hiro. Actually, I think Hiro says something to him too, doesn't he? Where he's like, because he's like, oh, you're hated by Hina, and Hiro's like, Mao doesn't hate you.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, he's like Mao like values her family. Like she does not hate you.
He's like, you have a ridiculous perspective on this.
Yeah, and well, he says that to Mao too. He's like, you ran away from our house. Like when they
start getting real with goldfish.
Yeah, when they start like finally talking to each other, he's like, you left me just like your mother did. And I was like, whoa. Dude.
But then he was like, he did be like, but I forced you to leave. And I was like, oh, well, at least you acknowledge that part. Like,
yeah, he gets there, which I think is the key thing, because before he's like, you ran away from me. And then he's like, oh, but I guess I pushed you away.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I like kind of really pushed you towards that decision. Hey, he's just like, I don't know. Part of me is like, all right, I get you, but also his reasoning is so ridiculous. Like, why he's currently afraid is so ridiculous to me. He's like, oh no, Mao's getting close to Yui and stepmom. Like, then they're all gonna run away from me.
Yeah, they're
like,
all gonna leave. And I'm like, yeah, because you're a miserable jerk. Like, who would want to stay with you? But, I mean, he's making strides. So I don't know if Mao's dad is, like, redeemed.
Yeah, I still don't know that he quite reached that level of anything.
He's definitely better. Like, at least he, like, stops being a total dick and, like, talks to his daughter. And actually makes an effort to be a family with her.
He definitely, they eat dinner. He's not a total curmudgeon.
Right. A great urging from her stepmom, who, does really step up to the plate in these volumes and, like, start to be, like, more of a mom.
She's all like, Mao, I'm not going to accept that you don't want to eat dinner right now anymore. And you, Dad, stop being a curmudgeon. We're going on a trip. Like, be happy.
Yeah.
Like,
I know. Like, she's like, you will get your butt down to the table and you will sit and eat dinner with this family. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. She has Mao like quit her job, which at first I was like, oh, she's so controlling. But then I was like, but this is like kind of what Mao wants, right? She was like so happy to like have a curfew, and she like sees people putting limits on her as like caring about her.
I know, right? So beautiful.
Because I guess her parents were just like, run wild like a little urchin. Like, we're not home. Do whatever you want. And so when someone actually is like, we need to be home to eat as a family, she's like, oh my God, they care. They want me.
Oh, yeah. Like, Mao has a line that she says to Hiro where she's like, if you didn't take me in, like, I probably would have been a hoodlum or something.
I know. She's like, I would have been a hoodlum. And he's like, what are you talking about?
He's like, I don't know about that, but okay. Like, sure, that's a possible scenario that could have happened.
Yeah, it's like I would have been like joined a street bike gang.
I honestly feel like if she was gonna be a hoodlum, like she already would have become the hoodlum by that age. But
it's true, yeah. If Mao was gonna be like a delinquent with an unhappy home life, I feel like we would have reached that by 17.
Yeah, like exactly.
I don't know.
Did you read Fruits Basket? Like, they were hoodlums by the time they were like 13. Let's be
right. It's like that's when the true hoodlums are made. Yeah. Not at 17.
Yeah, Mao, you've suffered the hard part. Like, you're fine.
But yeah, so Mao finally finds a place in her family again, which is definitely like a work in progress.
Oh, but then somebody comes and tries to throw a wrench in it.
Yes, and then Mao's mom shows up out of the blue.
Biological mom's like, hey, what's up? I'm here too. And I'm like, no.
Yeah, okay, because I'm like, Mao's dad sucks, but like, is Mao's mom the real scumbag? Like, who is this woman who like comes in and is like, so I've been out of your life for like 10 years. You want to come just like abandon everything and live with me? I'm ready to be here for you now.
Yeah, like, I've become a successful career woman. I have no men folk, so, like, let's go. I had no other children. Like, I'm ready for you. I can give you can go to a more luxurious school than this one that you're currently going to, and all these things.
Her mom totally tries to, like, buy her love. She's like, I can send you to, like, a better school with a cuter uniform. And then she's like, and I'll pay for your college, and, like, you won't want for anything, and we'll, like, go shopping together. And I was like, well, you are worse. you are even worse than Mao's dad. Because Mao's dad is, like, terrible. But, like, you were just, like, gone. You just left.
Yeah, at least Mao's dad was like, I have a responsibility to this child. And even when she went to live with Hiro, he was like, well, I'm not going to let her be a freeloader. Like, I'll give him money. And, like,
yeah,
there was
mom
some
was
acknowledgement.
Just like, bye. I'm leaving. I'll be. And then also she like tries to like come in the house, and Mao's like, no, like dad got remarried. And I didn't realize that he'd only been remarried for like a little over a year. But she's like, no, dad got remarried, and like I have a new mom now, and you can't just like come in. You can't just come in to your ex-husband's house and just like hang out like you still live there.
Like, it's a little much. Maybe you should calm down.
And she's like, oh, he remarried. And I was like, they really are totally out of touch. She just like totally left.
Yeah, she's checked out, man. Also, if I were her, I'd be like, who would marry this curmudgeon? Oh, I guess I made him a curmudgeon, though. Like,
I know. I guess I'm the one who ruined him.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. I was like, this woman is so selfish. She just like comes in and tells Mao to like drop her whole life so that she can live with her. And I'm like, you are the worst parent out of all the parents. And I feel like not all, but there is like a trend in this manga of like really scummy adults.
Oh, adults are bad.
Right? It's like all the like the Nakamura parents are dead, and then like Mao's dad sucks. And then the stepmom, she gets better and better, but like at first she's kind of meh. And then, and then like Mao's mom, and I'm like, why do all the adults suck?
And then, like, people at work for Hiro seem, like, mildly not great.
Yeah, and so I was just like, you are just all terrible.
All just so
and your children are all having to sort themselves out because of your bad parenting.
Right? It's not, yeah. Oh, man. I don't know. Mao's mom, I do like the way Mao was so mature in this situation. She was like, my luxury is that I have family that loves me, so bye.
Yeah, so the way that Mao deals with it, I think, is pretty interesting because her mom is, like, so selfish and also, like, kind of immature, right? She's just like, I'm just going to have my daughter come back and live with me. This is all going to be great. And doesn't, like, ask Mao, like, anything about, like, her life.
Yeah, well, because the mom seemingly has built up this whole thing over years. Like, she's been imagining it, but, like, not talked to the person who it concerns.
Right. Which is kind of like Hiro, but...
All right. Well, I'm like, you know, I see this in real life, more like at my job, sort of. Like, there's, like, all these massive miscommunication issues, like, between teams and stuff. And I'm like, why is it so hard for humans to just be like, hey, I'm doing a thing that concerns you directly. Maybe I should just talk to you directly. Like, it's a
right?
fascinating concept, huh? Like,
maybe I should open my mouth and speak words.
Yeah.
Well, because, like, here when Mao comes into Hiro's life and he's, like, been dreaming of, like, refilling the house with his siblings, and Mao's like, did you tell them that? Yeah. And he's like, oh, I should tell them.
Like, you know, and I told them a while ago.
Yeah, he's like, I guess I haven't really, like, told them flat out that, like, I really, really want them to come home, and it means a lot to me. And I think that that's, like, the piece that, like, Mao's mom is missing, is she never, like, called her daughter and was like, hey, it would mean a lot if we could, like, spend more time together. But Mao's reaction to it, I think, is interesting, because I think she recognizes that her mom's request is selfish, and her response is not, like, anger at her mom for leaving her, or like, oh, I'm excited because I want to be with my mom because my dad sucks. It's like sympathy. She like feels sorry for her.
Yeah, because she keeps being like, I actually really relate to my mom because my mom has nobody, and for a while I had nobody too. So like, I will take this proposition seriously. Like, she thinks about it.
She really does, yeah, because she's like, well, like, I've spent like all this time like building up like people that I can be with, and like I know it's really hard to be alone, so like maybe this is like my time that I need to be there for my mom. And I'm like, no
no
your mom is a grown-ass woman.
She made her bed, now she has to lie in it. Like,
yeah, basically. Well, because yeah, she's like, well, my mom has no one, and like she's all alone, and like maybe like I need to go be with her because like I know how hard it is to be alone. So it's kind of this weird, like, she's like parenting her mom. Like,
oh yeah, no, it's total reversal. Like, Mao is suddenly the parent here, and I'm like, all right, cool. I also do like when Mao, in realizing her blessing, she's like, I am so blessed. I have a dad and a little sister, and I got 2 moms. Like, oh, what's up, y'all? Y'all think that's a detriment, but I think it's great.
Yeah, she's like, I'm flush with moms. Like, I got them coming out of the woodwork.
Hiro was also my mom for a
Hiro
hot
was a mom. Hiro was a mom for a hot second. But then her decision and like the way that she tells her mom, it's not like, Mom, I can't go with you because you abandoned me for 10 years, or it's, Mom, I can't go with you because I have so many emotional debts to repay here.
Oh yeah, she's like, I have to give back. Like, I have taken so much from everybody, and so I have to go start giving back to all of them. And I'm like, wow, wish I was that mature at 17.
I know, right? She's like 17, and she's like, all these people have like given me like a lot and like poured like their feelings and hopes into me, and like I need to like return those feelings. Like, I can't just leave. And I'm like, oh.
I don't think even most adults understand that. Like,
yeah. Like, ooh.
I'm not sure I could put that into practice that well.
Yeah, like I'm not sure that I could like articulate that to someone. Like, oh, I need to like give back to the people who have like been there for me, and like I need to be there for them now. But the thing that I sort of have mixed feelings about is she like doesn't talk to Hiro about it at all.
Oh yeah. Hiro's just like, something's going on with Mao, and Mao does not tell me nothing. And like,
yeah, which I'm like, on one hand, when she deals with the situation, and then she calls Hiro and is like, tells him everything, and is like, look, I did it. Like, I dealt with this all on my own. I am a mature human, and I can like make decisions, and like look at me, I'm like a strong enough person to make these decisions alone. But also I'm like, but
well, that's a bit hypocritical, because that's basically what her mom had just done. Was like, she was making all these plans and decisions, trying to prove that she could do it on her own, right? Like, she was like, oh, I've started my own business, it became successful, now I actually have enough money, so I'm like unashamed to go talk to you now.
Yeah,
these sorts of things. And it's just like, Mao, you just were mad that your mom did that sort of thing to you. And now you're like, look, Hiro, I did it.
Yeah, it's like she needed like that moment so that she could feel like she could like handle her, like all of her stuff and like in her family and her like emotional burden without relying on Hiro, I guess. Because I guess she feels like she's been leaning on him. But I'm like, but that's kind of like what like good friends and boyfriends are for, right? It's like emotional support. So for me, I was like, had mixed feelings about her not telling Hiro about it, because I was like, I feel like you should just talk to him about it and like let him support you.
No, not telling Hiro was not a smart move. I can agree. Like, I get the emotional payoff of it, but I'm just like, Mao, this whole manga has been about you realizing that like people want to worry over you. Like, you should let people worry. Like,
it's so true. And also like earlier, like when she like goes back and starts staying with her family for the first time, everyone is kind of like, she lies to like everyone about it. Like Daiki's like, how's it going? She's like, it's going great. And Chi-chan is like, how's it going? And she's like, you know, like real good. And then Hiro calls her and is like, how's it going? And she's like, actually not so hot. And so he's like the only one that she is like really honest with. And so I just thought it was weird how she would be like, no, this is the moment that I need to fly solo.
it needed the dramatic manga climax.
Yeah, it needed that little, they have to like separate for a little while so that they can like come back together. In this case, they separated like for a week, like emotionally via communication. At least no one was like, and I'm moving out of the country.
Yeah.
I hate that plot point.
No, Hiro was just busy working his slave job.
I know. He was just busy being a corporate slave.
Yeah.
He's fine.
He'll be fine. He's only 24. Just wait until he's 40. Then he won't be so fine.
Aw. He's like, my back. From sitting here in my eyes. They're so strange from looking at computer screens full of data. But yeah, so Mao finally goes, and she's like, this all happened, and like, this is the decision I made, and like, I did it on my own, and like, look at me, I'm like a strong, independent person.
Good for you, Mao.
And
I
yeah,
guess.
and I guess that's fine. And so then that kind of like resolves Mao's family situation, because like she goes back to her family, and Hina finally agrees to come home, and then Hiro is finally allowed to mac on Mao, which I believe were the rules set out.
Mac on Mao. Hashtag.
He's like, now you don't live under my roof, so I guess we can like kiss and stuff.
Okay, sure. I guess we should talk about everybody's confession scenes and ship them all now. So
many confession scenes. Well, actually, yeah. The first confessional scene I want to talk about is actually like Sugimoto's confession that she is not Kukai.
Okay.
which I know was like not what you were angling towards, but I feel like that sorts out like a bunch important. Of stuff. It takes her so long to work herself up. It takes her longer to work herself up to confess that she's not Kukai than to actually confess her feelings the first time.
That's true. Because she was still holding out hope that like that would still bring them enough connection in the end.
Yeah, she was like, I still have this. Like, he's still a fan of not me.
Not me. Of Mao.
And then she like finally is like, I have to tell you. It's not me. And I was like, oh my God, finally, Jesus Christ. This took you so long.
It takes her longer to say she is not a person than for Mao to be like, I have solved all my family problems that have built up for 17 years. Isn't that
yes. It takes her so long. And I think we were really hard on Sugimoto last time because I was like really mad at her for her bad behavior.
I mean, I don't feel like she got much better in this.
I know. I just feel like when we were just talking about how Mao is like, what a mature way she like articulates to her mom how she needs to like give back to the people who have supported her. And like Sugimoto, I feel like feels like a really immature character a lot of times because she's just like doesn't like step up to like dealing with like the hard stuff. Like just telling Hiro that she's not the one who wrote the stupid cell phone novel.
Yeah. I mean, she literally had to give back in this situation, but like literally something that she stole, basically, you know?
Yeah.
Like, It's like, oh, you did not move beyond that level of giving back.
No, and so she finally is like, oh, this is like actually a novel about like her entire life and identity. So like, I guess I should admit that it wasn't me. I'm like, yeah, I guess you should.
At least the one thing that she gives is being like, all right, Hiro, I'm gonna need you to read this novel again.
Yeah, read
with
it
this
again
specific
from the beginning.
Like, mode in mind. Like, think about these things in particular. Pay attention to them. Read it again. See what happens.
Yeah, I did like Hiro's like realization when he's like looking at it, and then he realizes that like all the names are from that like historical drama that Mao's like obsessed with, and he's like, oh my god.
Yeah, and he's like, wait, Kukai is just another name for Mao. Oh, okay.
I know, he's like, oh my god, what? And I'm like, yeah, you are oblivious. Although I can't say that I would put two and two together if I was reading like an online blog.
Right.
So I was like, ugh, Sugimoto, like, finally you have like divulged your last like burden to the plot. Now you can like move on with your life.
Okay, no, she got better than she deserves, though. I'm still gonna be. I'm mad.
Okay, yeah, that's true. Although I did find her ending very amusing.
Well, because it's just so you're like, who is this? This boy is not real. Like,
Yeah, so because at the end she's like, I guess I'll just die alone. Since I'll never be with Nakamura. And then she finally meets up with her online friend, Rui, and it turns out that he's like a super hot dude.
he's a model.
Who's like obsessed with Dante
He just
Masamune
likes
and
BL,
BL.
but he's not gay. I'm like, all right.
He's like, I just love BL so much. And I was like, how did you like this like magical like model Fudanshi unicorn?
Yeah, no, exactly.
Who's like
I'm
in
like,
love
this
with
is
you.
BS, yo. I don't buy this at all.
He's like, I just fell in love with you like over
these 4 years as we chatted online
on fanfiction.net.
Right.
I fell in love with you. I was like, this is a highly hilarious conclusion for her, but also like
No, it's infuriating.
very ridiculous.
She doesn't deserve this. She needs to learn hard lessons that she's not learning from this.
So true. Yeah, I'm like, don't steal other people's identities to make the boy you like you.
Ugh.
Don't like be sneaky and like try to go out with the boy you like where the other girl can see you, because that's spiteful and mean. So yeah, she still has growing up to do.
She is, the things that she did that were bad all involved online things, and now she's being rewarded for not completely confirming the identity of somebody that she talked to online. I'm like, no. No.
You don't get happiness,
You don't get
Sugimoto.
happiness, Sugimoto. Daiki didn't get happiness, so you don't get anything.
Oh, that's like, I feel like that's where the real bitterness is coming from, is that like Sugimoto gets a happy ending, but Daiki like is still alone at the end.
Daiki's just like moderately happy having a family again at the end. Yeah, exactly.
Womp. Okay, he's not moderately happy. He's very happy. He lives with his family again.
Listen, I have mixed feelings about the ending of it just being like, oh, Hiro being like, and now Mao and I are engaged. Deal with it, Hina and Daiki. Bye.
Yeah. Okay. Wait. Let's get into that. We're getting ahead of ourselves because we were going to talk about the big confession scene after I dumped more on Sugimoto. So finally, Hiro and Mao get to be together. And they go on their date that Mao is like, what is date? How do I date?
What is date? How dates?
How do I skate? I can't. What is restaurant? And then they have their big confession, which always, of course, it's like a shoujo manga. It's like full page spread of him like confessing his feelings.
Of just
for her
like
on
the words,
Ferris
I love
wheel.
you in a
I
word.
know. I was like, aww.
On a Ferris
Doki,
wheel.
doki. Yeah, on a Ferris wheel. And it's like, obviously we know that they're going to end up together by this point. But it's still nice.
Is it? I don't know.
You didn't like it?
I don't know. And in the end, I was like, I am okay with you two, but like I do not feel it deep in my heart. You know?
But you're not Daiki. Okay, here's the thing I really love about Hiro and Mao, though, is they are cute together to me because of the way they like lift each other up and like support each other throughout the manga. Like they are just so positive in each other's lives.
Yeah.
And it like just makes me so happy. Like, and they're like cute together. Like they just work very well together. Like she is honest with Hiro is honest with her. Like they're generally, aside from like the whole I like you, no, I'm just kidding, I'm joking, not really. They are very open and honest with each other. They like get each other in a way that like other people don't get them, and they just like make each other better people.
I'm all about that. At the same time, I'm like, Hiro is like too good, maybe. Like,
is he?
He's pretty perfect.
I mean, he is. Well, last time we talked about how like Hiro is like maybe a little like selfish in the same way that like Mao's mom is kind of selfish and being like, I have envisioned this whole life for us and I did not consult you, but I think that you should be a part of it. And I think that a lot of the manga is Hiro kind of like getting past that, because that's kind of where he is too. He's like, I have preserved this home and I would like you guys to come live here. And they're like, okay, but like we have like done other things since we left. And like maybe that dream that you have is not like what's best for us. And he does get it in the end, but a part of it is he gets it through realizing that like his family is not exactly as he imagined it would be, and that's okay.
I just feel like he gets to have his cake and eat it too, right? Like he literally bought a Christmas cake and started eating it by himself, but then it all worked out for him in the end.
It's so true. Oh my god, that made me the saddest. Dyke is like, I'm working, goodbye, and Mao's like, I am going to my family, and he's like, okay, I am all alone on Christmas.
I bought a cake though.
Just like sitting at his kitchen table, like eating his cake alone. I was like, oh my god, Hiro, you are pathetic.
But in the end, he doesn't have to eat it alone, and that's how this whole manga has gone for him.
That is true. Yeah, Hiro, he is fairly perfect, and he does get a happy ending, which is good for him. But I feel like he has earned it by living like generally a sad and lonely life
by
up
being
until
a
now.
corporate slave.
Well, it's like he like lived there for like years all alone, which is like kind of soul crushing when you think about it.
In his big house, all alone.
Yeah, like that's like I think the saddest part of that Christmas scene where he's like eating the cake alone is he's like, this used to be normal for me.
Yeah.
He's like, but I got used to people.
I wouldn't have bought such a big cake if I knew I was gonna do this again.
Oh, poor Hiro. But yeah, the reason I like them as a couple is just because they are so like good for each other. In a way that I feel like even though I too enjoy Daiki, I feel like Daiki and Mao don't have that same thing.
No. But I just don't feel Hiro in my heart. I am glad that they are happy though.
I think this manga is more of the kind where it's like you're happy for like the couple makes you happy, and less like, oh my god, the boy is so hot, I want to be with him so
Daiki.
much. You're like, except for Daiki, I'm in love. But you know what you know how like some romance manga are like, oh my god, he's so hot, like I can't wait to like self-insert as this girl who's gonna date him.
Yeah. Yeah, this manga is not that, but I really fell hard for Daiki in a way that I was like, this is very unexpected.
Yeah, this manga is more like I'm trying to like think of another one. It's kind of like, for me, it kind of reminds me more of like Horimiya, where you're like, you two are just so cute together. Oh, yeah. and you two just like make each other so happy and like make each other better people. And it's not like I really like want to date either one of you, but I like love seeing you be together.
Fine, that's fair. I can accept that.
Yeah, Hiro is not exactly like a doki doki hero. He's not like, oh my god, Hiro walked in.
What a hottie.
Oh my god, we swooned. He's like texting Mao. He's like, hi, how are you? And you're like, oh, he's so supportive. He's just got like, oh, he's so hot. But in the end, Hiro has to like admit to his family that he's like dating a high schooler. Womp.
Womp womp. Yep.
And all the aunties are like, what? And they're like, Hiro, you're dating a high schooler? And he's like, she's 18.
He's like, yes.
Yes, I am. I did think it was interesting in one of the author's notes. Taamo mentions that her parents have the same age gap as Mao and Hiro.
Yeah.
Which I was like, oh, that's interesting.
And then she like asked them if they ever were embarrassed, like felt it in any way. And they were just like, whatever. Like,
yeah, they were like, not really.
Yeah.
Like, it's fine.
And I was like, that really informs my reading of this. Like, you're just like, yeah, just, people shouldn't care about this because my parents are like this and they're fine.
Yeah, they're fine. They're totally fine. But yeah, do you think it's weird that he basically, I mean, okay, so it's a shoujo manga, so it sort of has to end with like at least like a gesture towards a wedding.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. But it's not a wedding, it's not like a real proposal. He's kind of like, I want to spend the rest of my life with you.
Yeah,
you dumb
vaguely
idiot.
In the future we should get married. Like,
yeah, and like have a family. Do you think Hina and Daiki would like not be okay with that?
I think I was like, Hiro, you don't need to. Yeah, like I was like, it's too soon, Hiro. Like, chill out. Hina just got here. Like, calm down.
It's like, God, you're so greedy.
Don't be
now
horny.
You have all your siblings here. now you want to get married. Like how his aunts are like, you should get married. And
yeah, he's like, I want my own children now. I'm like, calm down, bro.
I know, chill, Hiro. Although I do like the moment that Mao kind of realizes, she has like this moment of realization where she's like, Hiro is, you know, because she's like, Hiro's like a mom. She's like, Hiro is like everyone's parent. But his parents are dead. And I was like, yeah, Mao.
Womp womp. Yeah, that's
we
why
know.
Mao.
That's the whole thing.
You did it. You solved it.
And I kind of like how Mao, her thing in the end with Hiro is that she's like, you have like supported me all this time and like been there for me, and like now I'm gonna be there for you and like support you. And I was like, that's kind of nice. Like Mao's like in a place where she feels like emotionally strong enough that she's like, now I will be your rock.
Yeah,
and, like, you go cry by the shrine and like I'll come find you and take you home.
He's like, okay, let's just have children, though.
Yeah, and he's like, let's just date and make out on a Ferris wheel. I do find Mao, her being like, no, don't kiss me. And then I'm like, shut up, Mao.
I'm not ready yet. I gotta prepare myself.
I need to prepare my heart. I'm like, shut it. It's been 13 volumes. You know you want to make out with him.
Aww.
Stop acting all like shy and demure. We know what you're about.
You're not pure. Don't lie.
You're friends with Chi-chan. So.
Listen, we all have a friend like Chi-chan. I think this is what I realized.
I know. Oda's like, I just want to hold her hand, and Chi-chan's like, when are we gonna bang? Do you have condoms?
Yeah.
Slow down, Chi-chan.
Do we support Oda and Chi? You did last time.
I do. I still do. I feel like I said, I feel like they're like the kind of like cute like high school couple. They're just like doing their thing. Why do you
I
not?
think Daiki and Chi should have gotten a chance. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, I will say that I wouldn't have been upset if Chi ended up with Daiki.
I think that's the future we truly deserved.
I think I would have been very okay with that. On the other hand, I feel like it would have been sort of weird because it would have felt like Daiki was settling for Chi-chan.
But I feel like Oda is just only likes Chi by proxy of being like everybody's been rejected by Mao, and like he's just like, oh, but now Daiki has a chance, and that makes me think no.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like, I didn't really realize my feelings until another boy tried to take her. And I'm like, okay, Oda.
Right. Like, this is the thing that bothers me somewhat about, like, the Hunger Games, you know? It's like, Katniss has got Gale and Peeta vying for her, and it's kind of like, only because Peeta becomes on the scene are Katniss and Gale then like, oh, well, I don't want to be forced into this thing with Peeta, so like, yeah, I'm gonna go make out with Gale now. Just
okay.
Like,
Well, full disclosure, I am not a Peeta supporter.
You're not a Peeta supporter.
No,
Oh
I never have been, and I think he's terrible.
My God, this is a tragic turn of events.
This podcast is canceled.
We're done now.
Got the recording. Listen, what did Peeta have to offer Katniss? Okay, he like threw bread at her when she was a kid.
No.
And then thought he was like a great person for it. And then like hid in a cave for like most of the first book. Like, what does Peeta have to offer?
Peeta saves her before he gets hurt, saving her. Why they have to hide in the cave? Okay, first of all. Second of all, he's a very, very sweet boy who gives her the emotional support she needs that Gale doesn't, because Gale sucks.
Okay. But Gale is like her childhood friend who like she actually feels close with. And Peeta is someone who she just became close with due to like suspension bridge syndrome or whatever.
No, she becomes close to Peeta because they go through a million traumatic things together, and then
I know,
in the end,
exactly.
they're, like, broken.
They go through traumatic things together and then they think they're in love. But her real connection was with Gale. Okay, anyway.
I feel like this explains so much about her personality.
I know. I'm like, Peeta, who cares? He's just some guy.
Wrong.
They just think they're in love because they were in a life-threatening situation together. They have nothing in common.
No, they're perfect. I literally have 6 Hunger Games posters hung up on my bed, and they're all Peeta and Katniss. So.
Oh my God. Well, I also felt like the way that Gale went down in the end was like kind of lame.
Okay, sure. I can agree. We can agree.
They were just like, she's like, I can never look at you again because my sister died. And I was like, okay, Ken. That's fine. Whatever. Go have babies with Peeta if that makes you happy.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
And it makes her very happy. Okay. Speaking of the Hunger Games, like the epilogue where it's like, oh, and then we have like a million babies together.
They have
life is
2.
happy. Like, I hate those kind of epilogues. Like, I hate the epilogue in Harry Potter. Like, I don't need to see Harry's sons. I'm fine. And I appreciate that Taamo doesn't do that in this manga. Like, I think she has a note. She's like, I was gonna like show a wedding scene, and then I thought it was like important for everyone to just like remember teenage Mao. And I was like, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I don't need a wedding scene. I don't need to see their kids. Like, I'm happy with it ending like this.
But wasn't there a color page that was like, this is totally a wedding?
Yeah, there was a color page with them, like her in like a dress that was like obviously a wedding dress, and him in like a suit. But it was like an illustration. It wasn't like, and now we have a whole flash forward epilogue of their wedding, or of like Hina like playing with their baby. I'm like, this is unnecessary.
This is unnecessary. So it didn't go there. That's true.
I know, it didn't. I hate those flash forward chapters. So I'm like, no. Leave the characters as I know them. They're happy right now.
So you just like epically hate Maid Sama, I guess.
I just like, and I always am just like, at the end, I'm like, can I just skip this part? Like, I'm just happy when they like get together. I don't need to know that they like had a baby.
Yeah. We don't need to know that they're happy forever. We just want them to be happy in this moment.
Right. Well, also is like shoujo manga is already like end with the wedding, but for me it's like, oh, and now they have true happiness because like they got married and had a baby, and I'm like, but they were
happy before.
They're happy before. This isn't like the ultimate goal.
Babies don't have to be the goal. Yeah. That's why
Yeah.
I'm like, Hiro, you're doing it too fast. Stop.
Calm down here. Yeah, well, I felt like she kind of struck like a good balance between giving the reader like they're gonna be like, this is, you know, forever. Like, I want to be with you for the rest of our lives, and not being like, and then they had 8 children.
Oh, you know they're gonna have 8 children though.
Oh yeah, I gotta fill up that house. Well, there's only 6 seats at the dining room table. So.
They'll just buy a bigger one.
You're gonna need an even bigger table.
Yeah. Hiro really was proud of buying that bigger table, so you know
I
it would
know.
bring him immense joy.
Honestly, maybe that's why Hiro resonates with me, because I am also the person who would like get really excited about buying a dining room table. I'm like, it seats 8 people. It's amazing. Now we can have everyone over.
Have
Like,
everyone
I
over.
get
There's
this.
room for all the things in the future.
I know, Hiro's so domestic. I'm like, I get you, Hiro. I totally feel you on this level. I also want a new table. Yeah. Oh, Hiro.
Oh, Hiro.
He's kind of perfect. But for me, he's not perfect in like an annoying way where you're just like, oh, he's just so perfect. Like he can't do anything wrong.
He's not perfect in the way that Rui is perfect, right? I can't say this name.
It's like, I'm a model.
I'm a model and I love everything that you love and I'm hot. And it's like, no, get out.
And I'm hot.
I'm in
Let's
love with
be together.
you. Not all these other girls that are fawning over me, but you, Sugimoto. I'm like, no, screw this.
Yeah. Ugh, yeah. That chapter. It's very like wish fulfillment-y, and like, this is fine. I like the part though at the end where they go to the Nakamura family grave with like all their family. And Mao comes with them, and she's like, you know, like praying and like talking to Hiro's parents. Like, she's like, I'm really gonna like take care of your son, and like I am so happy that I can like be part of your family, and like thanks for taking me in when I was like a kid, and blah 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 blah. And Hiro's like, what are you doing? He's like, you're taking too long. Like, what are you saying?
She's like, I can't tell you that.
And she's like, I have a lot to report. Like, calm down. He's like, you're going on too long. You're boring them.
I know best. I'm their child. You shut up now.
I know. I was like, oh, you guys are cute.
But I don't know. Just for me, Oda is also like a little too like pretty boy perfect.
Yeah, Oda is totally, well, he's totally like that, like, prince of the school. All the girls love him. And then, like, he likes Chi, I guess, because, I don't know.
Because she likes him. Like, that's all.
Because she likes him, and she doesn't, like, fawn all over him, I guess.
And they were, like, friends before, so they had, like, a repertoire that actually made sense.
Yeah, which I'm like, that's fine.
No.
That's like it's a fine high school, like, normal romance.
But Daiki.
But wouldn't it be weird though if like Daiki ended up with like Mao's friend, and it's like totally like, I couldn't be with Mao, so I like settled for her best friend.
But Oda couldn't be with Mao either.
But I feel like Daiki deserves better than Oda. Like, that's fine for Oda.
Right. That's the fan fiction I'm gonna write. Daiki gets like even better than Mao. Like, Daiki found like ultimate woman.
Well, Hina's gonna set him up with her friends.
No.
Hina's gonna make Daiki a Tinder profile.
Oh my god. I mean, yes.
I like how Hina,
Daiki on Twitter on Tinder.
Hina's going around like taking pictures of all the girls in her grade, trying to like set Daiki up with someone. I was like, Hina, you are a good wingman. I support this.
Hina, surprise.
Hina's looking out for Daiki.
Oh my god. Okay. Well.
Don't worry. Hina will take care of Daiki. He'll find someone. I feel like that'll be better for Daiki in the end anyway. I feel like Daiki and Mao, even though it would have made Daiki really happy and like Mao would have been happy, I feel like they don't have like as strong of a future together.
I just want Daiki to be happy.
I know. He does. He does need to be happy. Well, he doesn't get romantic love in the end, but he gets family love.
He does get family love.
it's family love, which is kind of, I don't know, this manga is obviously like family is important. Like, right? It's like a big thing of the manga. You're like, family. But I also think that the way it navigates like familial versus romantic love is like sort of interesting because like we were just talking about Chi and Oda and how they're kind of just like, we're just a high school couple. We just like go on dates and stuff. And everyone else has like all this baggage with each other. But like when Mao and Hiro are first living together, they're like, well, we're just like siblings. And then it like develops into like romantic love. And like with Daiki, she's like, I see you as a brother. And he's like, I see you as a girlfriend. And they're like, this does not work.
This does not match up. Ooh.
No. But then even with like when we were talking about like Mao and her dad, like the way that they like approach each other is like way more like first dating than like anything she does with Daiki and Hiro.
Right.
Where they're like, we should like go catch like scoop goldfish together and then we'll like bond over this, I guess.
Yeah, except our bonds go real deep and it got dark real fast over the goldfish.
I know. I was like, oh, okay, this is getting really intense. But like those relationships between like how Mao like sees different people in her life, like, and Hiro too, like he's like, Mao is family, like while she lives in my home, and then like once she leaves, I can like feel more comfortable seeing her like romantically because I'm not like, she's not like my ward.
And then I can work to try to bring her back into this house so that we can have the sexy time.
Yes. Well, I mean, because that's like where it ultimately ends, is that like then Mao like is in the end like still, he like wants her to be part of his family. So like romantic love turns into like family love again. So it's all like one big like ball.
It's all one big circle of, it's like reduce, reuse, recycle. It's like,
yeah. Because he's like, I love you, like not like a sister.
Not like a sister though.
Not like a sister, but I like want you to be part of my family in like a different way. Not as a replacement for Hina, but yeah, let's have like 8 children. We'll have 1 million dining room tables.
We'll have the children's table and then like adult table.
Oh, yeah. So like Hiro like remakes his family in the end. Then like Mao, I feel like Hiro's family is like set, like they're good. Like Daiki's gonna go to college like next year, and then Hina's there for like a few more years. But then Mao's family, I'm like, I guess you guys are okay. Like I don't really know. Like, is this a happy ending for you? You seem fine. You
seem fine. Everybody's fine.
Because Hiro's like, we've like all discussed our feelings and emotions, and like we have all come together again, and like we have like the blessing of our dead parents in this home that they built us, and like the support of our loved ones and family. And then Mao's like, my dad still kind of sucks. But she does, I think she says in the end though that she's like gonna live at home while she goes to college.
Oh, does she say that? I don't remember.
Yeah, I think she tells Hiro like, yeah, I think I'm gonna like go to college somewhere close so that I can like stay home. And Hiro's like, yeah, you know, you like worked so hard to like be able to like be home that it would make sense for you to stay home and like get to know your new mom and sister.
Yeah. Before we make babies.
Before we have all of our babies. I know. It's like, what are the stepmom's feelings? Because she was also a Daiki stan. So.
I really am just a Daiki stan.
maybe you and her could like commiserate.
Yeah.
Like she's like, why did she end up with Hiro? I liked that Daiki boy a lot better.
Well, I mean, at least from her mom's perspective, it must be an age thing too. Like it's more age appropriate for you to be with this nice Daiki boy over here.
Yeah, it is. So it is.
But Hiro, mom, Hiro.
I know, except for her dad the whole time has been like, I just want Hiro to marry Mao. And I'm like, what?
Yeah, and his dreams will come true, see?
I know, but then like the reason that he wanted that was so that he could like offload his daughter on them like for good.
He's like, finally, I got rid of Mao.
Right? He was like, she's just married into that family, and then I'm done with her. Like she always liked them better than me. Yeah, she always wanted to be over there, and she never wanted to be in my house. So now you did it. Now you're permanently there. Although, okay, I don't think we talked about Daiki's cousin. who like
Yeah.
his aunt like really wants him to like marry his cousin.
But I'm like, why? No. Daiki's also like, no.
Like, oh yeah, Mao and Hiro have this like 7-year age gap, but is it like better to marry your cousin? She's like, I always hoped she would marry her and then just like be part of our family for real, which is like a very sweet sentiment, but also I'm like, you guys are first cousins.
Yeah, definitely do not support.
So yeah, I was like, oh, I hope
And the
Daiki doesn't
cousin
end up with
seemed
her.
to be crushing on him, right? Like she was all blushy. I couldn't tell if that's just how she is, though.
No, I think she totally has a thing for him. She's the one who like brings him the sweater, and she's like, I brought you this. Oh, I hope you.
Yeah.
I miss you so much. Like, let's text. Like,
Let's sex.
she's like, how old is she even?
I don't know.
I think she's like in middle school.
Oh no. Oh.
And so she's like all like has a crush on her cousin, and
No.
and the mom like totally is like into it, so she can like
Ew.
fold Daiki into the family. And I'm like, no. Daiki is gonna meet such a nice smart girl in college, and they're gonna be like lawyers together or something.
Okay. Good fanfiction.
I feel like Daiki just has a really bright future.
I agree.
Well, he's like a smarty pants, and he has been crushing on this girl his whole life who he like teased as a kid. And now he's like finally in a place where he can like move on and make like a fresh start.
And he's a hot warrior.
Yeah, he's like a hot Sengoku general cosplayer. Oh my gosh. Okay, I did love this whole podcast is going to be about Daiki and his antics. When he goes to like the group date with his coworker.
Yeah.
And she's like, please come. And he's like feeling all like sad and rejected. So he's like, fine, I'll go.
No.
And then he like hates it. And all the girls are like, let's exchange numbers. And he's like, I have to leave.
He's like, I don't know you though. Why would I give you my number? This
I know,
makes no sense. Like it just makes no sense to Daiki.
I know, he's just like, what do they want? And then she's like flirting with him, and he's like, I have to go walk my dog, and just like leaves.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, Daiki, that's fine.
Daiki's having a meltdown.
I know. Daiki's like too perceptive for his own good. He like sees through everyone.
I know, but I think that's how I am too. Like in situation, like I would totally behave in like a way that's like, this societal norm just makes no sense to me. I'm
I know, like, to be honest, like I would totally do a Daiki if someone forced me to go on like a group date. I'd be like, I have to go walk my cat. Like, goodbye. They're like, what? And I'm like, yep, it's getting real late. I have to go.
Gotta go now.
That is like me 100% of the time. I'm like, oh, getting very tired. Have to go. Must leave. Cannot
see you
handle.
later / never.
Yeah, see you never. Let's not do this group date thing again.
Have a nice life.
But I feel like Mao and Daiki are like fun together because they do kind of just like rib each other like siblings. But I feel like Daiki needs a girl who is gonna like give as good as she gets. Like I feel like Daiki needs to be able to like, you know, make one of his like very Daiki like barbed comments to her, and she's just like dishes it right back at him. That's why for like the hot second that I was like, oh, are they gonna air like Daiki and Sugimoto gonna like
Oh yeah, I was like, no.
I was like, absolutely not. Definitely not. Also, they would be terrible together because Sugimoto would like cry all day.
And that would be her settling for like other Nakamura brother.
Whoa, talking about settling and then be like, yeah, I got the other Nakamura.
Yeah.
Oh no, thank you.
No, thank you. I was like, Manga, you better not be implying this because I will be so mad. Like,
no, yeah, I like how even Daiki, who's like 17, is like more mature than Sugimoto.
Everybody's
like,
more mature than Sugimoto.
Yeah, he's like, no, you need to like get over yourself and stop coming here also.
Girl, stop getting drunk. Away.
Yeah, he's like, please stop, go away. And she's like, no, you don't understand. I'm just so sad. Okay, Sugimoto, calm down.
Okay.
You know who also didn't get to find happiness though is Hiro's work friend whose name I can never remember.
Fujitaka, I believe.
Yeah, he just like he's fine.
Yeah, he's fine. He seems like a jovial man he'll be fine someday.
Well, for like a hot second, Sugimoto was like, "I'm gonna let go of this love and like move on to someone else."
Oh yeah,
and
she was trying to go with him.
Yeah, she tries to like invite him to dinner or something, and he can't go for some reason. And I'm like, you two would be perfect together. You're both like people I don't care about in this manga. Go on.
Exactly. Go for it.
Go and be together. Be happy.
Oh, man.
What I want to talk about also is I think you mentioned this last time and we didn't really like dig into it, but that this manga is like not exactly the kind of shoujo manga that does like super well over here.
Yeah.
And like I think that you are right, but like why do you think that is true?
I don't know. I've been really struggling with like why quieter, more slice of lifey romances don't do as well over here. Especially going into having to do like 3 episodes about Kimi ni Totake, where I'm like, I really just don't feel like there's a fandom for that in America. Like,
really, I feel like Kimi ni Totake. Well, maybe more the anime has like more of a fandom around it. I guess you're right.
Like people watch the anime, but that didn't make them want to go read. It made me read the manga, but I don't think that that's like the overwhelming majority of people's responses to that.
Yeah. Well, it made me want to read the manga, if only because the second season of the Kimi ni Totake anime is like the most frustrating. But yeah, I feel like there is less. I mean, so what shoujo manga do you think, like what types of shoujo manga do you think do better? Like, I feel like fantasy-based ones
definitely
are like a little hotter.
Comedic ones and fantasy ones, I think, are the ones that blow up. Comedic ones have the funnies in them. They're keeping you going. I guess like Oran and Maid-sama and Horimiya is not a shoujo manga, but
Horimiya is not a shoujo manga, but it is a romance manga.
Yeah, in that vein sort of deal. And I don't know, fantasy ones always have like, I guess, weird fashion and hotter boys.
Yeah. there is the fashion and the hot boys. Well, I feel like
see, there's no good, like, you know, it's just like the backgrounds in this have to be real basic, and I don't know, I think people are just like, whatever, I just read romance novels for like quiet romances sort of deal.
Yeah. Well, I feel like maybe also like the comedy one, like Ouran High School Host Club is such a good example of this, where like people who think they don't like shoujo manga or don't like romance manga will be like, oh, but I love Ouran High School Host Club.
Yeah, you get the nice laughs in there. It's good.
Right, because it's so different. And I'm like, is it?
You're like, this is real basic 101 now.
Is it though? Well, because like Ouran does some stuff to like subvert some shoujo tropes, but like at heart it is very much a shoujo manga.
Yeah.
Like very much like still all the, like, you know, it still has like multiple boys competing for our girl who still goes through like a lot of like really common shoujo tropes. Like, yeah, it has like a good sense of humor. It's like I love Ouran, but like it's not a shoujo manga or like not a romance manga in any way. And so I feel like I don't know. I feel like manga like House of the Sun, which are like more quiet, like comfy romances, are totally like devalued.
They are.
They are like you, and I feel like because you can't be like, oh well, I just like read it for the like politics or like the costumes or like the jokes, because it really is, you're just reading for like a sweet romance story.
It's just so much harder to sell, like, I don't know, like especially for House of the Sun, you know, there can be lines where I'm like, that is like such a deep human observation that I feel, you know, people just don't value in the same way unless it's wrapped up in some sort of like paranormal thing or something.
Yeah, that's so true.
Like Erased, like, you know, it's like, yeah, Erased has a lot of like deep cutting lines about what it means to be human, but everybody's wrapped up in like the mystery aspects of it and like the fact that you can go back in time. but like when it's just like, yeah, this is just real life, like people are just like, that's boring.
Yeah, I know. It's like, this is a thriller, so it's like deeper and more exciting. And you're like, this is just like a romance about like lonely people and like finding family.
And it has really cutting observations, and it's
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is also a manga that is just more understated in general, which is something that I really like about it, but it doesn't have like the drama of something like like speaking like Erased, for example, where but also something that's just like a silent voice, which is also like real human problems and like not funny.
Oh no, I ugly sobbed at A Silent Voice, like just straight ugly sobbed in my room,
right?
Being like, I'm so disturbed and distraught.
Yeah, but it's like very dramatic, and it has like it's like gonna make you cry, and oh, it's so sad, and House of the Sun doesn't really like have those moments where you're like, and then I sobbed over this, or and then I can't believe she slapped her.
Yeah, no, there's no. Yeah, it's true. There's no dramatic moments.
No one is slapping anyone.
The most dramatic moments are Mal jaws on Hiro's face. Like,
yeah, then he like wakes up and he's like, "What the again?" Like,
why do I keep letting this happen to me?
Just like such like a more like a simple like everyday feeling that is like even in manga like Maid Sama, where it's like hijinks, like
super hijinks,
improbable happenings, like we're a member of a band. What? Like,
yeah.
All kinds of crazy stuff is going on. And this one is more like you could like know someone like Mao, you know?
Yeah.
Like you could like know a person who
I know Chihiro. Like that's just
right. And it has like just more of like a everyday kind of feeling, which I feel like is just like not as exciting and like not as valued, and it doesn't have like a manga kind of reminds me of like Flying Witch, which is very very different, but has like a kind of similar understated sense of humor. Where it's like the jokes land kind of like in silence, like somewhat like House of the Sun, where you're just like, oh, that's silly, like Mao's being dumb, and less like huge like punchlines. But that one has like a fantasy hook because it's like slice of life, but she's like a witch, and so she is like sort of doing magical things while also like having just these like daily. That one's more of a comedy, but it has that kind of more like even keeled, like no high drama.
Yeah.
No, it's like there's drama in House of the Sun, but it gets resolved. No one gets hit by a car. Like no one's house burns down.
Yeah.
No one is like running like dramatically to the airport in the rain to like stop someone from getting on a flight. You know, it's like the most like dramatic thing that happens is like you like work up the courage to like talk to someone about a topic that is like difficult for you, which is like total like everyday like actual real life drama.
I know. Yeah, and like the most like dramatic thing from like a societal weird standpoint is that like, okay, yeah, it's pretty weird that Mao's dad just is like, I'm her legal guardian, I let her live with Hiro, but it's not like cops don't become involved. There's not like some like
right.
It doesn't become
like, this is neglect. Someone calls CPS.
Yeah, like it never escalates to that. So you're just like, okay.
Yeah, they're just like, we are just trying to like find out how we can be happy as people and finding love along the way. There is another manga that has a similar title. What is it called? It's by the same girl who wrote Orange. It's Dream and Sun.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read any of it?
No, but I definitely always get it. Like when you said it, I was like, wait, no, not the same. They're not the same manga.
House of the Sun. Dream and Sun, which Seven Seas put out in like actual paper books, unlike this one, and you can get them from a library. But it has like a very similar premise where the girl has like, you know, a new family at home. She's like a new step parent and a new sibling, and so she like leaves and goes and lives at like essentially a boarding house with these two guys she goes to school with. So like, you know,
of course, duh.
romance in the air, living with other high school boys. And so it has like the similar kind of premise where she's like, I don't feel like I have a place at home, and like I'm gonna go like find myself outside the home, and the guy who like runs the boarding house that she lives in is like also kind of young. He's like a young professional too.
Okay.
And I thought at some point she kind of has like a thing for him, and I'm like, this is so much like House of the Sun, except for it's like way worse.
Ooh.
But I know, shots fired. Sorry if you guys like Dream and Sun. Like I read a few volumes of it, and I'm like, I can't believe that the House of the Sun didn't get print volumes and this did. This is like House of the Sun, but worse. Well, it's like not a bad manga, but for me, it's like not extremely compelling. And the girl, her feelings like jump around between like all the boys, kind of. Mm-hmm. She's like very fickle.
Whichever one is nice to her that day, she's like,
yeah, kind of. Like she's like, oh, I'm like really into him, and then she like kind of like gets rejected, and then she's like, oh, now I'm like really into like my landlord who's like 25 or something. And I'm like, okay. And I would like to know how that manga is doing, and like if it's selling well, because I feel like it's kind of similar. It has like but it has like a higher level of hijinks because she like lives with two high school boys.
Yeah, of course. That's the only thing. It's really getting more people to read it.
Yeah, so I don't know. I like having these kind of series that, well, like Viz just published Aoharu Ride. I feel like Aoharu Ride is kind of has more higher drama from what I remember from the anime.
Yeah, well, okay. But see, I think the hesitancy with Viz for Aoharu Ride is that they picked up Strobe Edge back in the day, which is Iwasaki Saka's like first manga, and that was the only one that we had in America. And again, this is where I perceive like the difference in American and Japanese audiences, where like Iwasaki Saka's current manga, which I forget its name, it has like a weird name, is like one of the top selling manga in Japan and is not licensed here. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, yeah, like Iwasaki Saka's really hot stuff in Japan, but like I have to assume that Viz was hesitant to pick up Aoharu Ride because Strobe Edge didn't do well. And Strobe Edge is, again, also a sort of, like, quiet, like, there's nothing super dramatic that happens in it.
No time travel.
Yeah, there's just hot boys vying for a girl, and it has, like, a cool title. It's like, there's nothing, and it has pretty art, you know? It's, like, super quiet and stuff. So, like, their hesitancy over picking up Aoharu Ride is, like, well, you guys never show up for these manga, right?
Right. It's like, you guys didn't turn out for Strobe Edge, but I'm like, also, you guys put that out like a long time ago. Like, I still have some volumes of Strobe Edge in my library. Like, I have the whole thing. And it doesn't fly off the shelves, I'll tell you. Because it is an older series.
Yeah. But I still think it's kind of like, yeah, you know, you guys, we know you never show up for the, like, there's a string of, like, we have sales data, you don't show up for this.
Yeah. And I wonder if there's, like, if, like, tastes are changing a little bit. Maybe just because there is more material out there in general. But, like, for a while, remember, like, when sports manga, like, never got licensed?
Yeah, and then they were like, oh, sports anime are doing well. Maybe we should...
Yeah, like remember when sports manga were like anathema because like Eye Shield didn't sell well or something, and now they're like, we got Haikyuu, we got Yopeta, like now we like all the sports manga. Like they didn't even put out Kuroko's basketball until it was already done because they were like, no one will buy a manga about basketball, no one cares about sports, and I was like, what?
Have y'all seen what the hottest anime is?
I know, exactly. I'm like, but have you seen the show? Like people have seen it, and there is significant fandom.
To be
Kuroko's
fair,
basketball.
It is more fun to watch sports anime because you get to see it is about sports. You get to see them in motion. You're like, okay, cool.
Yes, it is true. It is more fun to watch sports anime.
Whereas I don't think that it's more fun to watch shoujo anime for me, usually.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of... Like, I do like watching shoujo anime, like shoujo romance anime, but I feel like trying to like think of one that I like really, really liked.
No.
I don't know. I liked the Maid Sama anime, but I like read it before the manga.
Oh, yeah. I watched that before the manga, too. And I totally liked it. But, like, I don't know. To me, it's just reading romance manga and shoujo manga in general is kind of like, I like to linger on the, like, you get to set the pace of how impactful a moment is.
That is true. Yeah, because it's like the big confession scene, you can be like, oh.
Yeah, you can just sit there forever. Like, you don't have to flip that page. You can
just look at all that sparkly screen tone.
You can let that sink in for like 5 minutes, and then
just let your heart fill up with Doki Dokis. I know my husband makes fun of me because I like read manga really slow compared to him. And I don't think I'm a slow reader. He's like exceptionally fast. But I totally am like the person that does that. If there's like a panel I like, I'm like, oh.
Exactly.
or I like flip the page back to like look at it again. So I'm like, it takes me longer.
Whereas like, you know, the Maid-sama anime certainly has this sort of like frenetic pacing because it's trying to like cram all the jokes in there. But it just has to go real fast that way. So you're like, it's more fun.
Yeah, I thought the Yona anime was really good too, actually. But that one is more of like an action thing going on. It's kind of like, it's similar to like Fushigi Yugi with like dragon boys and whatnot. So, but yeah, for like quieter series, I feel like, yeah, reading the manga might just be better.
But then nobody's reading the manga. What is wrong with this? This is a bad cycle to be in.
I don't know. I feel like they just need, maybe they just need a different kind of exposure, and it's like a different kind of expectation. I feel like a lot of shoujo romance stuff that got licensed like a few years ago was, I don't know, actually I feel like it's still a lot of like shoujo romance stuff that gets licensed is kind of mediocre. Like there's a lot of series that I like scroll by on like Amazon when I'm like looking for other stuff, and I'm like, what is that? I've never even heard of that. There's also like been a trend of licensing like a lot of those like supernatural series, which I think also came in the wake of like the paranormal romance YA craze. Yeah. Where like Twilight was really popular, so then it was like, oh, and like Vampire Knight.
Oh, but
and like those.
Okay, if we're gonna link it to YA crazes, then yes, I think that now quieter shoujo romances would do well, because I think that is the best place that YA is currently in is that like realistic, like diverse romances are doing the best.
Yeah,
like,
right.
It's no longer
and it's
dystopian or paranormal stuff. It's just like real life.
Right, and it's not like, and she was like bit by a vampire.
Yeah.
or I mean, and I'm like totally saying this as someone who like really likes Kami-sama Kiss. Like a lot of those like yokai, like Shinto fantasy-based series were like really, really hot for a while, like Demon Prince of the Momochi House and like that style.
Yeah.
Of manga, where I think it was very much like, oh, girls like fox boys. And I'm like, true, like I'll cop to that. I like a fox boy.
I like a good fox boy, yeah.
For sure. Give me one of them fox boys. But also like that was, I think, playing on that trend as well. And then like if you look at the stuff that's being licensed in like the josei realm, there's a lot more like quieter, not like quieter, but just like more like realistic titles.
Yeah.
I guess, are like getting a little bit more play, and so I feel like maybe there's a chance.
Yeah, maybe this is the prime time for Ao Haru Ride, like finally.
Yeah.
We finally reached it.
And like Waiting for Spring, which I really like.
I really like Waiting for Spring.
So yeah, so like maybe there is like more of a market for these quieter series, but also go read House of the Sun.
Yeah, please read House of the Sun. That's basically the conclusion. And become a Daiki stan with me. Yeah, I guess I never really like tracked how manga crazes probably do link up to like YA crazes pretty well. or like general book trends here.
Because I feel like the publishers are always looking at like what sold well for them before. Right? Because so like I used to work in publishing, and that's like literally how you buy a book is you're like, this book is similar to this book, and that book sold X amount of copies, so like I think this book can sell Y amount of copies because it has like a similar audience. And so I was like looking for how to like market those titles, and I feel like we've only recently gotten to a point where you can like market manga titles as just like being like other similar manga titles. So I feel like once like one title does well, like once like Aoharu as well.
Yeah.
Then they'll be like, look at all these other similar series that we could comp this
No,
series
I think
to.
a lot is riding on a Aoharu ride. Like, I think Viz at least perceives that they're taking a big chance on it, but everybody, like, requested it over the years. So they're like, all right, you say you're going to buy this.
I know, which is kind of like,
Yeah.
like here we are taking this ginormous chance. Like, I remember how long it took for Princess Jellyfish to get licensed. And, like, everyone, like, really wanted it because, like, the anime was so good. And they were like, just like, how can this possibly do well? I don't know. And I'm like, it seems to do fine. like I have a copy of it on my shelves in my library, and it is, like, always checked out. And then, like, Tokyo Tareba Girls did well enough that Kodansha put out in print after doing digital. So I'm like, people will show up.
Yeah.
Like, I promise.
I'm praying for you, Aoharu Red.
I know, please. We want more just nice romance
We want
series.
just quiet romance series. I really am always super curious. I'm like, did Kimi ni Todake do well? Or is it just like, oops?
I also really want to know,
I know.
that as well. But especially because it's such a long series.
So long.
It's like, what, 30 volumes?
Mm-hmm. There's no way that by the end that's doing well. No.
Well, right, because, like, every volume, like, you have to think, like, people drop off
Yeah.
a little bit. Even, like, people who are big fans maybe don't own, like, the last 3 or 4 volumes yet, you know? They're like, oh, I'll get to it. Or they're just like, the series is already so long, I don't have any more room on my shelf.
Yeah. The last one hasn't out yet, but I will buy it. I will have all of it. I'm supporting all my quiet romances.
It's definitely not one I own. I'm like, it's too long.
Too long.
You should check this out from the library. But I know that's, like, one of the considerations when doing licenses too, is, like, how long is this series going to go? Because, like, not every manga series is One Piece and can support, like, 85 volumes.
Yeah, no, and I think a shoujo that goes over, like, certainly one that goes over 20 volumes is like, whoa, we're really pushing it now.
Yeah, for sure. Because then it's like, are people still, oh my God, Skip Beat. Like, holy.
Oh, yeah, like.
How many volumes is Skip Beat on now?
At least 40 something. Like,
right?
40s.
Like 40 something? Oh my God. When is Skip Beat going to end? Like,
I don't know. I'm
been
very
going
scared
on
of when it
so
does.
long. And that's another one that I have at my library, and it takes up so much room on the shelf. And people still read it. Like, I still get asked for it, but not at the same rate of, like, other series. So I'm just like, oh my God, how long am I going to keep buying these volumes? But also, shoujo just doesn't get adapted as much into anime. So
Yeah.
maybe that is part of the problem, is, like, it often doesn't get that, like, anime buzz.
No, that's definitely a problem, is like dudes will watch shoujo anime, I think, and that can sometimes translate into something like Oran. Or even like, I mean, anime is always going to make people know about a thing more and possibly go buy the manga more. But yeah, because there's less shoujo made into anime, I'm like, I don't know, y'all. You gotta know about your House of the Suns, you know? You gotta like do the research.
You have to go research, or you have to, like, know about it. Yeah, because they just don't. I mean, I'm trying to think of, like, recent ones. Gaku and Babysitters, that didn't, like, make a big splash.
No.
Although it was really cute. Like, but no, they didn't even license the manga. And I was like, oh, are we going to get, like, a manga license now of, like, cute babies? But no, we just got the anime. And I know that one is, like, not an older series, but it had been going on for, like, quite some time. So, yeah, they just don't get made as much, which is, like... And then there's series that people, like, think are shoujo. And they aren't.
Horimiya.
Like Horimiya or, like, Nozaki-kun.
Yeah. No, I really hate anytime I see people like on Twitter ask like, "What's your favorite shoujo manga?" and then people reply with those things, and I'm like, I hate you.
And now I'm like,
I want you to respect that you're trying, but also
that this is not shoujo.
Yeah, like, but also
They're like, what? But it's like about love.
Yeah.
Like, no.
I'm like, but it's a parody. Okay.
I know. Yeah, well, yeah. Also, like, I saw someone refer to Nozaki-kun recently as, like, a josei manga. And I was like, no. Still no.
Still, like, even harder no. Like,
like, oh, why don't we get more josei adaptations like Nozaki-kun? I was like, maybe because Nozaki-kun isn't a josei manga.
First of all, you're all a mess here. Yeah. Quiet romances. You need to find yourself.
The struggle of the quiet romance manga. Yeah. But I really love them.
I know. I love them whenever I do read them. It's just they're so not talked about because it's a cycle of nobody talks about them, so then you never hear about them, so then you don't read them, and you're just like,
I know, but we're talking about them. We're talking about them.
Y'all just gonna have to deal with it.
And now people will know.
So yeah, this is coming out after Kimi ni Todake, so we'll have gone Kimi ni Todake to House of the Sun, so you're welcome, quiet shoujo romance. All right, well, now that we've done a thorough dissection of the woes of the manga publishing industry and why shoujo is not always the hottest thing in the market, I guess I'll read this outro. Thanks for listening to Shoujo and Tell. Comments, questions, concerns? Need to gush about Euro OTP? Want to be a Daiki stan with me? Please come be a Daiki stan with me. Email shoujoandtell@gmail.com or leave a comment on shoujoandtell.com/houseofthesun2. We're at Shojo and Tell on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Tumblr. Yeah. Kelly, where can people find you and your work on the internet?
Oh, you can find me on Twitter at Kelly Cute, Qute. You can find my podcast, One Panel Later, which is about comics and manga. East meets West. What? Also on Twitter at One Panel Later, or at our website, onepanellater.com. You can also find my writing on the Barnes & Noble Sci-Fi and Fantasy blog and on the librarian review blog, No Fly, No Tights.
Yeah, you should listen to One Panel Later. And again, just hard agree with everything Kelly says. And although admittedly, you guys talking about like Fence recently, I discovered that I have like free access to that, and I was like, I'm intrigued enough to read Fence. Like,
if you read Fence, then you need to be a guest on our podcast, and we can talk about it.
Okay, great. I also love Check Please, and I play ice hockey. And you guys talked about how you didn't like that it doesn't actually teach you about ice hockey, but I like that part. I'm like, thank you. I understand how ice hockey works, so thank you for just being a comic about like bro culture and like making it the better parts of bro culture, though.
Well, then I'll never know how ice hockey works.
Maybe you should just watch some ice hockey, Kelly.
This was my chance. I only learned about sports through sports manga. That's the only reason I know the rules of basketball.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that Check Please is definitely not going to teach you about the rules of hockey. It just does not care. Anyway, are you excited every time you see a new episode from us? If so, please consider leaving a rating in iTunes or Stitcher. This will help the podcast reach more hearts, or at least ears. Thanks again for listening. I don't actually know what we're going to be back for next time, because we're recording this in October, and it doesn't come out until February, so...
Yeah, happy Halloween from the past.
From the past. Yeah, I have many things that I want to do. I think I want to do The Young Master's Revenge by Mecha Tanaka. That's a short one. It's 4 volumes. It will have semi-recently ended. So maybe? I don't know. Or maybe we'll do, Stuff That Won Polls by Arina Tanamura, or like Tokyo Babylon by Clamp. I can't promise. Don't quote me, okay? Just don't. Just stay tuned for whatever it is. Until then, bye.